Chapter 9. Some Unexpected Enemies. Beyond each of the doors the two groups entered was a long tunnel. In the case of the group consisting of Dan, Harold, and Jadae, the end of the tunnel was not immediately visible. Theirs seemed to continue infinitely. However, in Simon and James's case, they were able to see a red hue not too far from the beginning of the tunnel. As they came closer to the red hue, they found that it came from a river of lava flowing next to a volcanic terrain, sourced by a lake of lava below a flat metal bridge. Nothing to hold on to as one would cross. Second. At the middle of the bridge was a large platform where a familiar figure in pitch black armor was standing, wielding a red laser sword. Behind this person was another metal bridge, like the one that extended from the tunnel to the central platform, where on the other side of which James and Simon noticed that there was a door. King of Darkness? What are you doing here? Why are you standing in our way? Simon asked him. Is it not obvious? King of Dark KOD responded. I am the one you will face in the sixth trial, but know that I do not wish to destroy you. The stakes of this battle are much different from your previous battles. I do not want your life. What I want is your body to use as my vessel, so that I may conquer the multiverse and become its ruler. Wouldn't the one in charge of all this have a problem with you becoming superior to them? Asked James. He will not be a problem. I already possess the power to overthrow him. But he gave me this body, and can take it away from me if I oppose him. So I need a vessel that is not of him, one over which he does not hold dominion. That is why I need to defeat you here and now. James, this does not concern you, so you may wait by the door behind me. It will not open until the battle is over. Now, Simon, draw your laser sword and let us begin, KOD commanded. Now, Simon did not have a laser sword with him at the moment, but he remembered that in Agrivanian realms, aid that is needed at a given moment can be summoned by first imagining the type of aid needed, and manifesting it into physical form by the power of will. So he pictured a blue laser sword in his mind, and directed his entire focus onto it, and then he imagined it manifesting physical form in his right hand. As he did so, light clustered in his right hand until it took the solid form of the handle of the blue laser sword he pictured in his mind. Does it really have to come to this? After all, you were one of the people who told me this would happen in the first place, Simon reminded KOD. Unfortunately now, even if I wanted to find common ground with you, neither of us may proceed onward until one of us is defeated. As it stands, I have no desire to come to an understanding with you. We also have unfinished business to settle through this battle. Now ignite your blade! KOD demanded, pointing his laser sword towards Simon with an emphasized thrust. Simon sighed, and as he flicked the switch to ignite the laser sword, he manifested. He said to KOD, I guess I don't have a choice but to fight you. Hopefully, we can come to an understanding through our swords, if not our words. Well, you can certainly try, KOD responded, and then he lunged at Simon, and their battle began. James watched from the platform by the door onward that would not open. Meanwhile, in the other tunnel, Jadae, Dan, and Harold had finally reached the end of their tunnel, which opened to a circular room with another tunnel on the other side. A blonde-haired woman was standing before it with her sword drawn. The three of them recognized that it was Asia, whom they had seen before they climbed the skyway to the portal.
The master has ordered me to keep you from reaching the others. Which of you shall be my opponent?
she asked them. Jadae stepped forward and said,
I will take you on.
Jadae, you haven't been with us from the beginning. Do you know how to summon the sword of your soul? Dan asked her. Do you know the sword that lies within you?
No?
Close your eyes and look deep in your soul, Harold interjected. When you've looked deep enough, you should see it. Once you find it, imagine it manifesting in your hand, and your willpower should summon it. Jadae closed her eyes and cleared her mind, focusing solely on finding the sword within her soul. In her mind's eye, she finally saw a sword that glowed with a warm green light. While focusing on the sword she found within, she imagined it forming in her right hand, which it did. As she did so, as soon as the sword appeared in her hand, there was an explosion of green light that knocked everyone in the immediate vicinity off their feet. Asia was no longer blocking the doorway to the tunnel beyond. Nodding to Jadae, Dan and Harold continued onward while Asia collected herself.
That's quite the sword your trick has.
Said Asia to Jadae as they both got to their feet, holding their swords before them.
Let me show you the power of my sword, the sword of illusions.
Asia raised her sword, and as she did so, the area around them began to warp, and a dense fog surrounded them, which visually separated Jadae from Asia. Jadae looked all around her to try to find Asia, when she suddenly, after hearing an odd noise, saw Asia flying at her. Jadae swung her sword, and her attacker vanished on contact with the sword. Jadae realized that it was just a projection of Asia that attacked her.
How do you like my sword's power? I can keep sending projections of myself while keeping the real me safe from your attacks, Asia told Jadae. I have to try to figure out where she's sending these projections from.
Jadae said to herself as she struck down another projection.
They seem to be coming from every direction.
Meanwhile, the battle between KOD and Simon was still raging, and though one would gain the upper hand for a time, the other would find a way to turn the tide in their favor. They kept they both kept pushing the battle to one edge of the platform or the other. The rocky terrain surrounding the lake below was not so far from the edge of the platform that a fall from it would kill a person, but it could incapacitate them long enough for an opponent to seize an opportunity for victory. KOD, you said we had unfinished business to settle in this battle. To what business were you referring? Simon asked Simon. Do you remember what Dragon Slayer did to us in your stories? What he did to our friends, that he might gain power? How he sacrificed them to summon one of the most powerful swords in existence, only to find he was not worthy to wield such power in the first place. Remember how his actions caused me, a dark persona of you, to take form in the response to what he did, to exact justice upon him for his crimes. When John Quibley separated me from you, you never considered that my power could potentially be used for good, and not just evil. You never sought to regain my power to use for good ends. I have watched you as time progressed in this timeline, and you always seem to fear certain abilities you possess. You fear that one day You might abuse such abilities and ultimately lose yourself to them. The great creator of the multiverse corrects his subjects when they go astray. Sometimes justice is necessary. Sometimes he gives his people the power to do so. One of the benefits of having me be a part of you was that you would have the internal strength to be someone who keeps others from engaging in self-destructive activities. I was meant to be that firm hand for you, yet you cast me aside because you are afraid of hurting others, even if it meant it would save them from doing harmful things to themselves. If I defeat you here, I can be a source of justice for the people of the multiverse, KOD explained. If I become ruler of the multiverse, I can ensure that wrongdoing never goes unpunished. You're right. I do tend to shy away from telling people that what they are doing is wrong. I tend to avoid being the voice of discipline when it is necessary for me to be that voice. My concern has always been that I could go too far and be too harsh in showing discipline to those for whom I am responsible. If I want to be a leader, I have to be firm in my judgment. I am sorry if I took your value for granted, but your solution to the problem of injustice in the multiverse is wrong. A true leader guides others on the path they believe is best for those who follow them. They don't force them to follow a path only they themselves believe is right. I understand what you are telling me. I need the sort of conviction that will give me the fortitude to stay true to the moral path I take. And the conviction will allow me to do what is necessary to protect others from themselves as well as external enemies. I also should have considered that your power could have been used for godly purposes, Simon responded as they continued to clash their laser swords with each other's. However, this multiverse belongs to no one save God the Father. Well, this battle will prove which of us is right, KOD replied. And their battle raged on. KOD pushed Simon to the edge of the platform. You know, I'm starting to think that even though this platform is rather large, it's still too small for this battle, Simon said as he jumped down to the rocky terrain below. I concur, KOD said as he followed suit, and their battle continued on the rocky terrain. From that point on, KOD was dominating the battle, and it was all Simon could do to block KOD's continuous attacks. KOD kept pushing Simon further and further back until Simon noticed that the terrain began to slope downward, and he felt an intense heat wash over his body behind him. He realized that the lava river was just behind him. Surrender now, and I'll make your end swift, he told Simon as he removed his helmet, revealing a battle-worn and scarred version of Simon's face. I do not wish to see you suffer here. Even now, is there still no way that we can come to an understanding? Not even if I were to apologize and make amends? Simon asked earnestly. Oh, I'm afraid we are just too far beyond apologies and restitution. Go to your end, knowing that the multiverse will be better once I become its ruler. Justice will always be served fairly and swiftly. Do not try and overpower me. I am on higher ground, and we both know what happened to the last person who tried to seize victory from the lower ground on a terrain similar to this. Farewell, Simon Petrus, KOD said to Simon as he raised his laser sword and approached him. Noticing that KOD's footing was uncertain as he descended the lava riverbank, Simon seized the opportunity and used KOD's uncertain footing against him, lunging at his legs to make him lose balance. KOD toppled over Simon and fell into the lava river. Simon tried to save KOD before the lava could do any damage to him, but he was too late. The lava had melted KOD's body from the waist down. It seems we now know which of us was right. I was so certain of my victory that I did not consider that the terrain could be used against me, KOD said warily. But you are not dead yet, Simon responded. I will be shortly, since I lost half my body to the lava, and the other half has begun to disintegrate, KOD replied. In my final moments, promise me something. What is it? Promise me. You'll hold on to your conviction, to your beliefs. Promise that you will not forsake power given to you by God. You will need it from here onwards. or else you cannot hope to guide or encourage others. Hold on to it, so that you might save this universe and keep it long after you surpass this calamity, KOD told Simon, as the last remnant of him disintegrated. Simon then found a formation of rock that allowed him to climb back to the top of the platform. He then walked over to where James was waiting by the door forward. With a click, the door was finally unlocked, and the pair of them proceeded through it. Meanwhile, Jadae was still fending off Asia's projections from all directions. She began to notice a pattern in their summoning. There was always the same sound before projection would come at her. The sound seemed to always originate from the same direction. She considered charging towards that direction, but the lack of visibility the fog caused by the fog made it too much of a risk to her. She was concerned that Asia might deal her a fatal blow if she charged towards her blindly. So she resolved to find a way to clear the illusions. After she fended off yet another projection, excuse me, a special necklace she had forgotten she had been wearing came out of her shirt, dangling loosely from her neck. This necklace was a special gift from a friend who told her it had a special power that could only be used once. So she saved it for when she needed it most. She realized that this might be that time, so she tightly grasped the charm at the end of the necklace in her hand and said,
Please, help me.
the charm on the necklace began to glow, and the sword of courage returned back to within her. She then realized that if she summoned the sword again, that explosion of green light would activate again.
Let a miracle of courage manifest here and now, and let that miracle give me the strength to follow the path I believe to be right. Manifest! Sword of courage!
Jadae commanded, and the sword once again manifested in her right hand, activating the green explosion of light that occurred earlier. When the green light cleared, the fog was gone, and there were no more projections of Asia flying at Jadae, who could now clearly see Asia before her.
You, you destroyed my illusions?
Shouted Asia with both anger and bewilderment.
And my sword is gone? It seems my sword of courage has an ability to clear all active effects around us when it makes its appearance.
Jadae replied.
You haven't defeated me yet.
Asia said with a scowl.
Not by far.
Meanwhile, Dan and Harold had just reached the end of the tunnel beyond the room where Jadae and Asia were fighting. They found that the room beyond this tunnel was full of more Disparadons. Harold, I'll clear a path for you so you can keep going. I'll hold them off as you proceed onward. You must find the others, Dan told him as he summoned the sword of utility in a bow shape. Are you going to be all right? Asked Harold. Yeah, I'm pretty quick at reloading and firing arrows. I'll be fine. Just go! Dan replied as he fired arrows in such rapid succession that the crowd of Disparadons parted, revealing a tunnel beyond that room. Harold hurried through the opening, looking back as he passed through the tunnel onward, and then continuing forward. On the other side of the path, Dave, Jenna, and Anthony arrived at a circular room at the end of the tunnel they had been walking through. A blue demon with wings and horns on his head. He appeared to be waiting for someone. Well, I've been waiting here to battle Simon Petrus, but I'll take you three on as a warm-up before I face it. In fact, I'll take you all on at once, but know that this will be a battle to the death, the demon told them. The demon told them in a gruff voice. I don't know who you think we are, but we don't have time to fight you. We need to find our friends, Dave replied. I'll introduce myself. I have several names, but most know me as the Winged Duke, the demon told them. You may refer to me as Bartemius, however. Also, I won't let you pass. Nothing would please me more than to see the despair on Simon's face when I tell him that I was the one who destroyed his friends. So, will you fight me? If you win, you can proceed onwards to find the others.